In the name of Almighty Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. As Muhammad, peace be upon him, narrated, if anyone travels on a road in search of knowledge, Almighty Allah will cause him to travel on one of the roads of paradise. Hello everyone, this is Dr.Tariq Masood. Thank you very much for watching my videos and your wonderful support to make this channel a grand success. We are partner of family. Please share and subscribe our channel if you haven't done so far. We as a team can work together to convert challenges into opportunities and opportunity into success stories. These success stories can be monetized into value addition in the world by large. Thank you very much for your precious time. Today I'm going to discuss SIL Safety Integrity Level Section 4 and overall Center of Excellence lecture number 20. Before my lecture, I used to read a Quranic verse. Qala Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli Allahumma Rabbi zidni ilma. O my Lord, open my chest and ease my tasks for me, and loose or not from my tongue, that they may understand my saying. Allahumma Rabbi zidni ilma. O Allah, advance me in my knowledge and true understanding. Okay, Center of Excellence, lecture number 20, SIL Study Guideline, section number 4. Okay, purpose of Center of Excellence, where we are at the moment, where we want to be, what to do in order to achieve the goal, and how to do it. That is the four pillar in order to achieve purpose of Center of Excellence. Okay, we are still working on section number 3 here. The safety integrity level assessment, section 3. We have already discussed number 1, hazard and hazard, and on next level we will discuss risk assessment management system and quantitative risk assessment. That would be number 4 and number 5. Key takeaway points, SIL study, section number 4. First, consequence, risk assessment, personal safety, environment consequence parameters, and economic and assets consequences parameters. Today we are going to discuss. Okay, SIL study. These are different sections which we are going to discuss next couple of weeks. We have discussed here up to the first abbreviation, references, codes, team structures, planning, SIL study with calibrated risk methods. At the moment, we are discussing section number 5. Okay, SIL introduction. The next scope. The guideline details the structures, responsibility, and techniques of the safety integrity level. SIL studies calibrated risk graph and LUPA methods. However, the SIL levels assigned 3 and above using risk graph methods shall be further verified. LUPA methods can also be used when the SIL assessment team using a risk graph method to enable to reach a consensus agreement on a target SIL levels. The guidance also details the requirement for the safety requirement specification, SIL verification, and SIL validation for a project. Okay, application of SIL. SIL study of the project shall cover all safety instrumental functions, SAS, in the process, vendor package system, utility system, and fire and gas systems associated with ESD system where there is a potential for hazard to human safety, environment, or assets production losses as well. Next is the policy. In the SIL study, the oil and gas companies are committed to protect the health and safety of the employees and others that may be affected by its activity and gave a proper regard to the conservation of the environment. So, different company policy is to conduct its activities such that it strives toward an incident-free, secure, safe, and healthy workplace. Safety studies are reviews shall be performed during the course of the project or modification to existing facility. This is to identify, qualify, and to establish the design safety measures that provide adequate protection to mitigate any risk involved with the proposed project development or the modification process. Okay, reference standard in quotes. International references IEC 6158, Part 1 discussed general requirements, Part 2 electrical occurrence program background safety related systems, Part 3 software requirements, Part 4 definition and abbreviation discussed in 6158, and number 5 example of method determinations, number 6 guidelines for the application 615082, and overview of technique and measures also discussed in section number 7 of 61508. Similarly, 6151, number 1 discuss framework, number 2 guidelines in the applications, and guidelines for the determinations are discussed in the references and standards. We have also discussed in my lecture number 1 and 2 sections of operational excellence 17 and 18. Okay, first case demand scenario. The team shall brainstorm to identify possible causes for the conditions that trigger the SIF. The demand could be caused by any of the number of the reasons, for example, control instrument malfunction, operator error, loss of a feed. For example, each cause shall be clearly documented in the SIL study sheet. The team shall focus on all possible causes of the hazard against which the SIF is design intent, and ensure all of them are indeed a source of demand on the SIF. Okay, consequences of failure on demand, COFD. The team should identify all the consequences of identified demand scenario, the location of the plant and of relative position of installation can have a significant influence in the consequences. The correct appreciation of these consequences is critical to the appropriate classification of the SIF. Okay, next is the independent safeguard. Where applicable, the team shall list of the independent safeguard independent from SIF which can reduce the event probability. Okay, then the SIL assessment. After the evaluation of the consequence of the failure on demand, each SIF is assigned with a safety integrity level, SIL. The SIL determination shall be based on calibrated risk graph, which we are going to discuss my next slide. The SIL assessment, the risk graphs are based on different parameters. Number 1, the consequence of hazard situations, personal safety environment, economic asset loss. They have different parameters S, E, and A respectively, as we discussed in my early lecture. The occupancy parameter, the probability of avoiding the hazard situations parameters, and the demand rate parameters. Okay, next is the consequences of parameter S, E, and A. Okay, so the consequence of parameter S, E, and A, first is the personal safety, environment, and assets. The consequences of the hazard situations for personal safety, environment, and economic asset loss parameter S and A respectively are further defined for various risk levels. These definitions are consistent with most of the oil and gas industry companies' risk assessment metrics. Okay. Now we are going to discuss my first table, consequence of risk parameter for personal safety. Okay. Consequence of risk parameter for personal safety. First is S1, S2, S3, S4, CA, CB, CC, and CD. Okay. Definitions. The first S1 as C1, minor injury or health effects. S2 CB, minor injury or health effects. Number 3 S3, single fatality or a permanent or total disability. And S4 CD, multiple fatalities. Okay. Okay. Environmental consequences parameter E. First, over here, E1 CA, E2 CB, E3 CC, E4 CD. Okay, what it demonstrates are basically. Okay, E1 CA, minor fact, contamination or damage are sufficient large to impact the environment, single exceeding of a statutes or prescribed limit, single complaint, no permanent effect on the environment. That is E1 CA. Number 2, E2 CB, localized effect. Limited loss of discharge of unknown toxicity, repeated exceeding of statutes or prescribed limit and beyond fence and neighborhood. Next is the E3CC. Major effect, severe environmental damage. The company is required to take extensive measures to restore the contaminated environment to its original state, extended exceeding of statutory or prescribed limit. Last, E4 CD. Massive effect, persistent or severe environmental damage or severe reasons extended over a large area in terms of commercial or recreational use or natural conservance, a major economic loss for any company, constant high exceeding of the statutory or prescribed limit. Okay, for my next slide, economic asset consequences of parameter. Okay, first the A1CA, A2CB, A3CC, and A4 the first year. Okay, minor damage. Minor damage, brief disruptions to operation with estimated cost loss than $100,000. Number 2, A2CB, localized damage. Partial shutdown of operation can be restarted but with estimated cost up to $1 million. And A3C and A4CD. Major damage, partial loss of operation, 2 weeks shutdown with estimated cost up to 10 million, and massive damage, substantial or total loss of operation with estimated cost exceeding of a 10 million, that would be a massive loss, or A4CD. Okay, exposure time parameter F. The exposure time of an individual in hazardous situation are further defined for 2 occupancy conditions. First is F1 and second is F2. What is F1? Rare to more often exposure in the hazard zones, normally unmanned operation of the relevant part of plant, occupancies less than 10%. F2, the frequent permanent exposure in the hazards zone, relevant part of plant is attended locally on the regular basis. Every shift or during the specific time of demand, startup, shutdown, or relevant part of the plant is located near continuous occupied road. Okay, next is the probability of avoiding the hazards parameter, that's parameter P. The parameter represents the probability of avoiding the hazards even if the protection system fails. 2 scenarios are defined for the SIL study is probability of avoiding the hazards parameter. First, P1 and P2. What P1 is basically demonstrated here. Possible under certain condition, some warning available, operator is capable of getting away from the hazards or hazards mitigated by the other measures. P2, the almost impossible, no warning available, operator may not be available or hazards may not be able to get away sufficiently or quickly. Okay, so in addition to that, the parameter takes into different accounts operation of the process supervised, that is operated by skill of the unskilled person, or unsupervised. Rate of development for the hazards events, suddenly, quickly, and slowly. Ease of recognition of danger are seen immediately, detected by the technical measures, detected without technical measures. Avoidance of the hazardous events, escape possible, not possible, or possible under certain conditions. Independent facilities are provided to shut down. Last, the facilities are provided to alert the operator that the SES has failed. Okay, demand rate, W. Okay, the purpose of the demand rate, W factor, is to estimate the frequency of the unwanted occurrences in the absence of SAF under considerations. This can be determined by the considering all the failures which can lead to the hazardous event and estimating the overall rate of occurrences. Other protection layers should be included in the considerations. So we have three different conditions. First, likelihood of the unwanted occurrences here, W1, W2, and W3. What is W1? A very slight probability that the unwanted occurrences will happen, and only a few unwanted occurrences are likely once in every 3 to 100 years. W2, a slight probability that the unwanted occurrence will happen and a few unwanted occurrences are likely once in every 3 to 30 years. Last, W3, a relatively high probability that the unwanted occurrences will happen and frequent unwanted occurrences are likely more than once in every 1 to 3 years. Okay, so that was my last slide. So now I'm going to conclude today's presentation and then we will focus on my next lecture. Okay. What we discussed today: consequences, risk parameter, environmental consequence parameters, the economic assets consequences, that is exposure time, probability, avoiding the hazards, demand rate. My next topic will be risk graph personal safety, then risk graph environment loss, and risk graph economic loss. So references here: Qatar Petroleum, Doha, Qatar, Oil and Gas Development Corporation of Pakistan, also known OGDC Pakistan, World Energy Output 13, US Geological Survey, US Department of Energy, Budget Oil Field, International Energy Agency, Wikipedia, Oklahoma State Oil Watches, NORSID, The Story of the Oil Independence Linear, Air Liquid Gas Encyclopedia, Natural Gas from the Wellhead. So please do not hesitate to send me your feedback and comments. t.masood.dear@. You may send me through WhatsApp at 646-684-062. Thank you very much for listening.